Hi, welcome to 𝘋𝑗𝑗𝗍𝑔𝑒, where we tackle complex and fascinating topics about intimacy, relationships, and self-discovery. I'm your host, Erica Rivera, and today's episode is called The Power of Submission and Dominance, Exploring BDSM Relationships. Now, BDSM is a topic that can be challenging to navigate, but it's also a pathway to deeper intimacy and trust. Throughout this episode, we're going to explore the nuances of BDSM, including power dynamics, consent, and emotional connections. By the end, I hope that you feel more informed and empowered to approach this topic with curiosity and respect. So, what is BDSM? BDSM is an acronym that stands for bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadism, and masochism. It's an umbrella term for consensual practices centered around power dynamics and physical play. While mainstream media will often portray BDSM as taboo or dangerous, the reality is much different because it is about trust and respect and exploring boundaries in a safe and consensual way. So, let's break it down. Bondage involves restraining movement. Discipline refers to enforcing agreed upon rules. Dominance and submission explore power exchange, while sadism and masochism involve deriving pleasure from giving or receiving certain sensations. Each dynamic is unique to the individuals involved, emphasizing open dialogue and mutual respect. So, consent and communication. Of course, I'm going to talk about consent and communication because what episode have I done where I didn't? If there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's this: consent is the cornerstone of BDSM. Unlike relationships without clearly defined dynamics, BDSM requires ongoing discussions about boundaries, desires, and expectations. This is not a one and done conversation. It's a continual dialogue. Safe words are an essential tool in this communication process. They allow participants to process or stop an activity instantly. Common safe words might include red to stop or yellow to proceed with caution. These simple tools ensure that every interaction prioritizes safe and mutual enjoyment. And the reason why I like using colors like that, like red, yellow, is it's the same as like street lights. Rather than picking a random word that could be confusing to understand in the moment. When it comes to power dynamics in BDSM, power dynamics are the heart of a BDSM relationship. For many, exploring dominance and submission isn't about control or weakness. It is about trust. A dominant takes on the responsibility of leading, while the submissive places their trust in that guidance. This isn't something to take lightly. It's a dynamic build on understanding and respect. So, let's see. Think of it this way. A power exchange in BDSM is like a dance. Each person has a role, and together they create a unique rhythm. Both partners agree to their roles, creating a space where vulnerability can thrive. This dynamic is deeply, deeply personal, often leading to stronger emotional connections. And like I already mentioned, trust is the backbone of any BDSM relationship. When engaging in power exchange, trust allows both partners to fully immerse themselves in their roles. For dominance, this means taking responsibility for their partner's safety and emotional well-being. For submissives, on the other hand, trust means allowing vulnerability and surrender in a safe and consensual space. Trust is built over time. You know what I mean? Like, it takes time to build, just like any other relationship. And it builds through honest conversations and shared experiences. It's not just about physical safety. I feel like there's a lot of focus on physical safety when I have these discussions with clients, but it's also about emotional safety. Participants need to feel confident that their boundaries will be respected and that any concerns that they have will be addressed openly and without judgment. That is a key word there, like the judgment aspect. If you are a submissive that does not feel safe coming to your dominant without that freedom of judgment, then you may want to question if that is the right dynamic for you. So first, let's explore the dominant role. The dominant partner in BDSM leads the interaction, taking on the role of guide, protector, and sometimes disciplinarian. But dominance isn't about controlling or aggressive. It's not about being controlling or aggressive or that kind of behavior. It's more so about nurturing the dynamic that brings both parties satisfaction and growth. A good dominant understands their partner's limits and ensures that these are respected at all times. They carry the responsibility of maintaining the balance of power, ensuring the experience remains consensual and enjoyable. For many dominants, this role fosters a deep sense of responsibility and connection. Exploring the submissive role. Submission is often, I cannot tell you how many times, it is often misunderstood as weakness, but it is actually a profound act of trust and empowerment. The submissive partner willingly surrenders control, creating space for a unique kind of intimacy and exploration. Submission can be physical, it can be emotional, or it can be psychological, depending on the dynamic agreed upon by both partners. Now, it is also very important to note that submission doesn't mean giving up autonomy. That is a very common misconception. A submissive partner has just as much agency as the dominant in defining the relationship's terms. This shared agreement allows for an equal power exchange where both roles are equally valued and respected. Now, there's different types of BDSM play. BDSM encompasses a variety of practices, each offering unique ways to explore connection and sensation. Bondage, for instance, which we mentioned earlier, involves restraining movement. So for this particular dynamic, you can use tools like ropes, cuffs, or even scarves. It's a way to explore that trust and vulnerability. Now, discipline focuses on agreed upon rules and consequences, creating a structure that enhances the power dynamic. Impact play, such as spanking or flogging, involves physical sensations that are carefully negotiated and executed. Each of these practices requires clear boundaries and communication to ensure that they're safe and enjoyable for both partners. Safety is a non-negotiable in BDSM. This starts with establishing safe words and adhering to them without question. Physical safety means understanding the tools and techniques that are being used, whether it's learning how to tie ropes safely or knowing how to use certain impact toys. Aftercare is another critical component and something that we tend to gloss over. So after a scene, both partners may experience intense emotions or physical sensations. Aftercare is going to provide the time and space to reconnect, debrief, and ensure that everyone feels supported and cared for. This can involve cuddling, talking, or simply just being present for one another. And I want to pause there for a second because aftercare really is a very important part of sex in general. So, in movies, you'll see people depicted after a scene just going right to sleep or kind of, okay, we did the deed, now it's over. And you're kind of just ignoring that person. You're off to the next thing, or like I said, you're going to bed. And that's really not how it should be. Aftercare really is important, especially coming down from a scene that may have been intense, especially if you are exploring BDSM dynamics, which can involve a lot of heavy physical sensations or a lot of heightened emotions. Having that drop is hard to deal with on your own at times. So it's important to communicate to your partner what it is that you need during that aftercare and just being present for each other. And it doesn't matter if you're the dominant or if you're the submissive, you're both going to have your own set of needs in order to have that moment to debrief and come down from that high, so to speak. Now, BDM in romantic relationships. It can coexist with everyday romantic relationships, which is going to add depth and variety. In a healthy BDSM relationship, communication about desires and boundaries will enhance trust and intimacy. Partners who engage in BDSM often report feeling closer and more connected as a result of their shared experiences. And I'm not saying that a vanilla relationship is not valid. It's not what I'm saying at all. But for those of you that may not know a lot about BDSM in romantic relationships, this is common, where people report actually feeling closer with their partner because they explored these types of dynamics. However, it is important to balance the roles of dominance and submission with the roles you play in day-to-day life. This requires ongoing communication and clear distinction between BDSM activities and other aspects of the relationship. All right, some myths and misconceptions, and we already kind of touched on this, but there are many, many myths surrounding BDSM, which again could take up an entire episode, but it's important to separate fact from fiction and go over a couple of them. One very common misconception is that BDSM is abusive. In reality, BDSM is built on mutual respect and consent, not abuse. If you're basing it on mutual respect and consent, then you're making it the opposite of abuse. Another myth is that submissives are weak or powerless. And it's kind of annoying how often that myth pops up. Submission is a choice made by strong individuals who trust their partners and themselves. By understanding these dynamics, we can challenge stereotypes and promote a more accurate understanding of BDSM. Now, this is also very important, the emotional aspect of BDSM. When you engage in BDSM, it can be a very emotional experience. For some, it's a way to explore vulnerability or reclaim power. For others, it's a path to self-discovery and healing. These emotional impacts can strengthen the bond between partners and deepen their understanding of themselves. However, it's definitely vital to address these emotions during aftercare. That's why I really pressed on that a few minutes ago. Talking through the experience, sharing your feelings, doing that is going to provide reassurance. And that reassurance helps both partners process and grow from that shared journey. Boundaries. Boundaries are so important. So, negotiating boundaries is an ongoing process in any BDSM relationship. Again, it's not a one and done type of conversation. It starts with an open conversation about what each partner is comfortable with and continues throughout the relationship. Desires and limits can change over time, and so regular check-ins are essential. It's no different than some of the previous episodes where I mentioned that consent is an ongoing conversation. Just because you gave consent initially doesn't mean that you have given this person consent forever. It can change. You can change your mind. You can change your yes to a no. And it goes the same with BDSM relationships and establishing those boundaries and renegotiating those boundaries. You're going to evolve. Things are going to change over time. Something that you wanted to try in the past, maybe you don't want to get involved with it now. Maybe something that you didn't want to do, you do want to do now. It's just how it is. So having those check-ins are really, really important, especially because of the heightened environment that you kind of put yourself in when you are exploring BDSM dynamics, especially, with the physical aspect, or if you're doing something that is psychological and you haven't checked in with your partner, that could be pretty detrimental. So it's really important that you continue to be as open as possible with your dominant or your submissive. It's very important to be basically specific. Be very specific about what you want to explore. Saying, I want to try bondage is a good starting point, but it's important to discuss the specifics, like the type of restraint, the duration. That's what's going to ensure a smoother and safer experience. There are some benefits. The benefits of BDSM can deepen intimacy. It can enhance trust. It can create new opportunities for connection. The vulnerability required for submission and the responsibility inherent in dominance fosters mutual respect and understanding. Many, many participants report feeling more confident and empowered in their everyday lives as a result of their BDSM experiences. The structured communication and clear boundaries often translates into healthier relationships outside of the dynamic. BDSM it's just a very deeply personal and empowering journey for those who choose to explore it. And at its core, It's about that trust, that consent, that connection. I like smile when I talk about this topic. I honestly love exploring this type of dynamic because like I mentioned earlier, it's just, there's so many positive benefits outside of the dynamic as a result that I can't emphasize enough, you know, to do your own research, the myths and misconceptions out there, just let that go. Do your own research. Every individual's experience is unique, and there's no one right way to engage in BDSM either. Now, I just want to say thank you. So thank you for joining me on this exploration of submission, dominance, and the beauty of power exchange. I will definitely be diving a little bit more into it next episode. I hope you are enjoying this month with the different relationship dynamics. That's been the focus. So I don't have any guests in January. The next 2 episodes will kind of fall in line with this topic. And, you know, I encourage you to continue learning, asking questions, and embracing curiosity as you navigate your own relationships. Contact information is here. Take a quick screenshot or pause your TV. And I also want to let you know, when it comes to asking questions and continuing to learn, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/𝘕ErikaRivera, where we dig deeper into these episodes and I get to go more in depth about the topics that we bring to the table here. So please subscribe and stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe. I will see you next time.